The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus and his disciples came to the other side of the sea, to the territory of Gerasene. When he got out of the boat, at once a man from the tombs who had an unclean spirit met him. The man had been dwelling among the tombs, and no one could restrain him any longer, even with a chain. In fact, he had frequently been bound with shackles and chains, but the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles smashed, and no one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the hillsides, he was always crying out and bruising himself with stones. Catching sight of Jesus from a distance, he ran up and prostrated himself before him, crying out in a loud voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you, by God, do not torment me." He had been saying to him, "Unclean spirit, come out of him." He asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "Legion is my name. There are many of us." And he pleaded earnestly with him not to drive them away from their territory. Now, a large herd of swine was feeding there on a hillside, and they pleaded with him, "Send us into the swine, let us enter them." And he led them, and the unclean spirit came out and entered the swine. The herd was about 2,000, rushed down a steep bank into the sea, and they were all drowned. The swineherds ran away and reported the incident in the town and throughout the countryside. And people came out to see what happened. As they approached Jesus, they caught sight of the man who had been possessed by legion, sitting there clothed in his right mind. And they were seized with fear. Those who witnessed the incident explained to them what had happened to the possessed man and the swine. Then they began to beg him to leave their district. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed pleaded to remain with him. But Jesus would not permit him, but told him instead, "Go home to your family and announce to them all that the Lord has, in his pity, has done for you." And when the man went off and began to proclaim in the Decapolis what Jesus had done for him, and they were all amazed. The Gospel of the Lord.
Well, that's such a long gospel, I cannot remember all the details. But let's look at it. The culture of Jesus' time believed that the place was full of devils of all kinds, individually and elsewhere. Devils all over the place. And this man obviously believed that he was possessed by a devil, which was not unusual at that time. And in fact, it was a very serious situation because he even damaged his own body and what have you as a result. And notice how he blames Jesus for this situation, for tormenting him. One of the first things Jesus does, ask him his name. What is your name? Why? Because to find out the other person's name was to give you power over that other person. So by Jesus finding out the name, that gave him power over the demon. Asked him, "What's your name?" Notice what he said, Legion. What is a legion? Legion is 6,000 men in the army. So it wasn't just one individual. It was a legion. It was thousands of devils that occupied this poor man. Now, was it genuine, or was he hallucinating, or was it some mental disease? Who knows? Who knows? But anyway, Jesus asked him his name, and then he had power over the devils. He gets. But that's not the end of the story, because the devils feel very threatened, and they don't want to die or be destroyed. So they suggest that he drive them into cattle that were there, into the pigs, rather. Now, we all know that Jewish people had nothing to do with pigs. They don't eat pork. In fact, I think it was, I was in a certain community some time ago, and I was the only Irishman there. So they asked me how I felt. I said, I feel like a pork chop at a Jewish wedding. A pork chop at a Jewish wedding. And that was the situation here. They didn't eat pork, so therefore some people would be happy that they were thrown into swine. But I think you have to ask yourself, could you imagine the impact that this had on the economy of the local community? 2,000 pigs destroyed? Very serious. And that's why, of course, they run Jesus out of town. Well, they don't run him, but they say to him, please leave the district, because of all the damage that he had done to the agrarian community, and to the farmers and pig owners and so on. And that was the end of the story, except this. Notice how the man becomes an evangelist. He goes and tells the story Jesus had done for him, and led to the conversion of family and friends. He became an evangelist, which we're all called